our identity, we can cling to that so much, and I know that that's exactly what God did when He brought me here as well. When He took me from my job, He took me from a relationship, He took me from my family, He took everything away from me that I thought I was and that I was good at, and made me sit in a classroom 5 days a week for 8 hours, focusing on the things I sucked at, and I'm like, what is this? And just telling me and just rewriting everything about my life, and it was so hard because I didn't believe those things that He was telling me was one of the biggest issues. I didn't believe I was chosen. I didn't believe I was that loved. I didn't believe that there could be grace. I didn't believe any of those things, and that was such a part of who I was. It was, somebody who was legalistic, somebody who just thought that love was just more of like a relationship with a boy than with a God, or with God, and it just was an amazing journey. But when I came to the end of the school year, I just looked back and was like, I am so glad that I went through all of these challenging days and months, because I see myself completely different. I see myself more of the way God sees me. And He's still doing it, though.
Yes.
It's like there's so much that He's still doing. He's showing me all the time who I am and kind of ripping things away from me. But it's in a gentle way, but yet firm, because He wants me to know who I am and how He sees me.
Yes.
And I think that's like for women especially. I mean, maybe because I am a woman that I know, but I feel like that's the hardest thing for us is to see God the way, or to see ourselves the way God sees us.
Yes.
It can just be like we just see the world, and we see magazines and pictures and movies and all these things, and we just can't fathom anything else, and we can't imagine a God who would love us based on these things that are deep down inside of us that we know is there, but no one else does, But He just uncovers it all, and it's amazing.
Yes. This is so appropriate for chapter 5, which is what we are on. The quote at the beginning, I used to think I could shape the circumstances around me, but now I know Jesus uses circumstances to shape me. So it's totally what we're talking about. In this chapter 5 recap, he wants to be a forest ranger. So he basically
Awesome.
spews all the tests in high school so that his parents would be okay, and his parents would think that that's what his bent was and that what he was good at. And he just kind of wanted to go and hang out, and then he got there and it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. He's like, dude, there are no girls here.
First response.
Which is hysterical. So, this is what he thought he wanted. He geared things so that he could get it. And when he got it, he was like, I don't really want this. Maybe I'll move to where my girlfriend is. And his girlfriend's just broken up with him via a letter or an email, I don't remember, but it wasn't in person. Yeah, a Dear Bob letter. So he shows up, and he's kind of like, it's not that I guess I thought I wanted her to be my girlfriend. I show up to try to get her back, but in the end, it's kind of like, look, the point is, a lot of times, we have our identity, and we have what we think we know about ourselves, and what we think we want, and when those things fall through, or when, somebody rejects us like this, our plans fail. We can tend to look at that as a failure or a rejection, or we kind of we're off kilter because we're like, oh, what does this mean about me? And where do I go? Whatever. We get stressed out. But a lot of times God wants to shape us, and He uses circumstances to shape us and who we are. And if we just allow Him to do those, if we can trust it, that's where I fail. That's where I think a lot of us fail, is you actually just have to trust God. And we want to control. Because when we let go of control, we feel unsafe.
Yes.
We're like, what is this going to mean? Because at least if I'm a forest ranger, I have all the boundaries of what that means. And maybe I won't be happy or satisfied, but at least it's safe, And maybe if I stay with this girl, maybe or boy, in my case, but for him, maybe if I stay with this girl, that I at least know what to expect, And maybe it won't be the best thing, but it's a safe thing.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we always do. And God's like, why would you do that when I have this great life of adventure for you that's so far beyond what you can imagine or what you could do on your own? But you're going to be satisfied here. It's not even who you are. It doesn't even make any sense. But if that's what you want, okay.
Right.
But there's something so much better for you if you would just trust me to take you there. Yeah, there's this page 35 quote, I've learned that God sometimes allows us to find ourselves in a place where we want something so bad that we can't see past it. Sometimes we can't even see God because of it.
Yeah.
When we want something that bad, it's easy to mistake what we truly need for the thing we really want. And then a little bit later, all along, what God really wants for us is something much different, something more tailored to us. Sometimes it's just something you want so bad you can't actually hear
Yeah.
clearly, and so, you know, sometimes it takes other people saying, you know, hey, have grace for yourself, but you know, maybe this isn't the best. Maybe along the journey with the Lord, you realize this isn't the best way. You know, like we were saying in our last chapter, thankfully God doesn't just look at us and see our messes, you know. And I think it's amazing because there's a debate out there, you know, can people really change? And I you know, I don't know outside of the Lord if that actually inside people can really change who they are. I don't know. But one thing I do know, it is miraculous how lives change, how God changes lives. He really does. And that's what we were talking about, you know, with your life and lives of your friends that were on your school year. Like, this person is just so different, and it's miraculous. Like, this is not something a person can actually accomplish. It's so different, you know? It's like a life in God's hands, trusting Him, steps of obedience. Because, you know, our life with the Lord is, the process of sanctification is a journey, you know? You start here, and then you go here and here and here, and it can be a slow process, it can be a slow build, but God actually dramatically changes your life. This is like a real relationship with a real God who actually is concerned about you and causes you to become who you truly are, which is the most fulfilling place you can live in and the most effective place you can live in on this earth. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know? We just trust is where it comes down to, you know, and God will ask things of us that seem outrageous.
Yeah.
You know, to Him they're not, but to us they are, you know? Biblically speaking of Abraham, but all of Hebrews 11, you're like, whoa, these people were asked some crazy things. To ask a little boy to face a giant is crazy, you know? But I don't even know if he asked, you know? David was just in a different place where he was like, this is wrong. You know, this is perspective. This is what we're talking about, you know? David hearing the challenge of the giant, which is defiance to God, he's like, whoa, why is nobody else reacting here?
Totally, yeah.
This is wrong here, and everybody else is like, I'm freaking out because my perspective is natural. The guy is huge, and we are never going to beat him, period, you know? David comes in, he's like, what's happening here? Why is nobody going out? You know, they even going out for the war cry every day. They shout the war cry. I'm like, what are you doing? And I think we can be like this in our Christianity, our life with the Lord. Is like we go through the motions of things, but we're not actually going to go to that place of trust where there's the risk. You know, I'm not letting go of this thing. I'm not going to risk this thing. But these things are okay. You know.
Yeah.
And David's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Perspective totally different.
Yeah.
Like the God I serve. He's offending him right now. And I know he's with me, so I'll go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And even with like, his own brothers are like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
You're a little tiny little man.
Yeah.
That's insignificant.
Right.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And it's almost like David doesn't even hear, his perspective is so different, he doesn't even hear that. He's like, why is nobody else, why is nobody fighting? Like he's just, you know, he's not dependent on the things that we can be dependent on, you know? Even your own family.
Yeah.
Like somebody give me, if one person gives me encouragement, then maybe I'll do it.
Right.
Like he's got nothing.
He didn't even wait to hear a booming voice say, David, I've chosen you.
No, he's just going whatever.
Yeah.
And then Saul's like, ooh, you should wear my armor. Like you should fit into my box. You should fight the way that I do because this is the right way. David's like, I'm not comfortable with this way.
Yeah.
Like the way that I have found God working through me is with my slingshot. So I'll just take my slingshot and go, I'm cool, guys.
Yeah.
You know, no worries.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
Yeah.
Like perspective of faith and trust in God. Because he knows that God is going to come through. Like he knows God enough to know that God will come through. And experientially, he's seen God come through. So he's not even nothing makes this guy waver.
No.
He's like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know. Like, I don't even understand. I'm just going to like go take care of this. Okay. And when you have the right perspective, it's not even scary. Nor is it amazing. It's just kind of like, what?
Life.
You know? God shows up. You're defying God. God shows up.
Mm-hmm.
He does what he does. You know, he defeats his enemies. And that's just the way it rolls. Abraham, here's the promise. My promise to you, you're 100 years old now, you have a baby. This is the promise that you've been living on for all this time walking with me, wandering in a desert. This is the fulfillment of it. Now sacrifice it, you know? And his kid was old enough to talk. I mean,
Yeah.
for goodness sake, the kid was old enough to know what was happening, you know? Like, everything you promised me is embodied here, and I'm very familiar with him because he's 11, however old he was, you know? And now this is what you're asking of me, but it says of Abraham, he didn't even waver in his faith concerning it, because he knew God was able to raise him from the dead. Did not even waver.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
That is a different perspective of a life of trust in God that is so different from the success or the failure ideas of the world. You know, like you're saying, middle school kids, they're looking for identity.
Yeah.
And when they're looking to see who they are, they're looking at the skinniest, most beautiful women they've ever seen in the world that you'll never ever measure up to in the universe. This is what beautiful is. Or this is what success is. Or this is what a woman needs to do. You know, this is what a successful man is. This is what this looks like. You know, and our culture is just so shallow and so fickle and so non-faithful.
Yeah.
You know, these are the role models that they're offered. These are the heroes that they're offered. I'm not saying they're their heroes, but these are the people defining what right and wrong and success and failure is. You know, you're just setting them up for failure
Yeah.
before they start. Unless we can get some heroes that have a perspective of humility,
Yeah.
understanding of who they are in God and can love people. Not be so freaking selfish. Like, even if you're not a Christian, if you just be a little less selfish, your life would go better for you.
Yeah.
You would be happier if you would be a little less selfish, you know? Because we're made to be dependent on each other, whether we acknowledge it or not,
Right.
you know? That God's grace comes in all shapes, sizes, and circumstances as God continues to unfold something magnificent in me. And when each of us looks back at all the turns and folds God has allowed in our lives, I don't think it looks like a series of folded over mistakes and do-overs that have shaped our lives. Instead, I think we'll conclude in the end that maybe we're all a little like human origami, and the more creases we have, the better.
Yeah.
I just think, I mean, it just goes back in the end to trusting God, you know? Like, if I so desperately, if force rangering is, I'm set on it, even though I know it's not best for me, then I'm set on it. But if I allow God to bring the changes, you know,
Yeah.
I'm actually better for them, and I need to have my perspective be that I'm better for them. Because then it's a lot easier when it comes at you. I mean, I'm just saying. If you're a little more flexible, it hurts a little less.
I feel like you believe more now than you did before that like your mistakes and your imperfections are covered over by.
For the most part. I mean, I still have my moments where I'm like, whoa, nope. But I think the biggest, we're going to be honest here, but I think the biggest thing that's changed my mind is seeing other people who have more folds than I do. And I just look at them and I'm like, wow, like God is shining through them right now.
Yeah.
You can see the outworking manifestation of God in their lives. And I'm like, well, if that comes as a result of more folds.
So the power of their testimonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of
Testimony.
wraps in how you need other people. Like I don't think I would have seen that without all of these people in my life.
Oh, that's so true.
So
Yeah.
maybe I'm okay with like bending the corners a little bit.
Yeah.
That's true. I think some of the most powerful like encouragements in my life have been people's testimonies, and like the Holy Spirit will bring it up again, and oh yeah, that's right, God. Okay, you did it for them, and they were messed up, so you can do it for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, because I think before I was a Christian, I just didn't want any human contact. It scared me so badly. So now, whenever I do have any human contact, it's like, bam, it hits you. It's like, oh, this is what human interaction could be.
Yes.
So,
I was gonna say, it reminds me again of David, you know, like first when he's young and he goes after Goliath, you know, full of faith, but then, of course, it's like he sins and he commits adultery with Bathsheba, you know, and to me, that would be like, man, if I did that, I would feel really crappy, you know, but the reality is God still called him a man after his heart.
Yes.
You know? And that's just like another fold in the paper, and it made him even more who he was because he knew the grace of God
Yes.
even more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's character building right
Yes. It is that thing like of these folds in the paper to us can seem like I'm damaged. I've done all these wrong things, but God just turns it into this beautiful thing, and it's so much of how we see God. Not,
Yes.
it's like, do you view God? And I have struggled with this for years, viewing God as this upset man who just like is grunting at my life. Like that's just exactly like again. Here she goes, and. When I finally realized that he is delighted in me, that he smiles at me, that he laughs with me, that he loves me. Like, I fall down, I'm rolling in the mud, I'm dirty, I've made all these mistakes, and I'm still born again, by the way. So it's like, should I not be making mistakes anymore? Oh no, I still do. He doesn't, it doesn't faze him. He just picks me up, cleans me off, like we're talking about, and it's just, okay, let's just keep going, I'm still God, I'm still here, I still love you, I don't see you any differently. And it's
Totally.
just, man, that makes the biggest difference in how you live your life.
It's so true. So what I think is so great, which sounds negative, but it's awesome and we should embrace it, is all of our righteousness is like filthy rags.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think we find unnerving and embarrassing.
Mm.
And I think it's great because God doesn't want us to try to earn anything from Him. And we always try to. It's almost like even when we get saved and we know that we have His righteousness imputed to us through Christ, even then, we're like, okay, we're saved, and now I'm going to try to earn something. Now I'm going to try to please Him. I'm going to try to earn His favor. I'm going to try to, maybe and however we see that success, again, this is perspective, however we see that success of earning something, we try. So maybe it's like, I'm going to learn how to prophesy. I'm going to prophesy on Sunday morning. If I do, then I'm like more radical. Or I'm going to, work at the soup kitchen, whatever it may be however you measure Christian success, and God's like, I don't want you trying to earn anything, because I just love you so much. And maybe the fact that you're discovering what a mess you're in is new to you, but it's not new to me,
Right.
and it's not why I loved you in the first place. It's not why I love you now, and my love toward you is not conditional. It's not based on how great you are or how bad you are. So kind of get over yourself.
Right.
I think we mainly just have to get over ourselves.
Yep.
Amen to that.
And that's how we get over yourself.